By Lady Lucy at KBC Channel 1 News. But first things first, let us have a look at the highlights on what has been making headlines in the last 8 hours or so.
The chanjo system is sending the reminder 48 hours to when you are due.
Kenyans who got their first COVID-19 vaccine to start receiving their second dose from Friday. The High Court declares appointments of 128 persons to parastatals and state corporations in 2018 as unconstitutional. The Council of Governors calls on the National Treasury to release the 105.9 billion shillings owed to counties. And KLM to start flying from Amsterdam to Mombasa in October this year.
Good evening once again. This is Business Insight. Now, Kenyans who received their first COVID-19 vaccine dose will start receiving their second dose from Friday. The Ministry of Health says all those due for the jab have already been contacted. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has in the meantime announced that Kenya has recorded at least 3 new cases of the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. Purity Musel has more details in regard to that particular update.
The government has linked the notorious curve to the new variants detected in the country. The Ministry of Health says it has detected the Indian, UK and South African COVID-19 variants in Kisumu, Mombasa and Kilifi counties.
These variants have been designated as number 1 is lineage B117/501Y/V1, first detected in the UK in September of 2020. The B1351/50502Y V2, first detected in South Africa in October of 2020.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe on Thursday called on Kenyans to observe the government containment measures to avert a 4th wave of infections.
The most important measure is the one that we keep talking about, of wearing masks, keeping your distance. That is the strongest single measure. Because, we can impose lockdowns and we can do all these things. But by the end of the day, you cannot be able to police each and every person.
Speaking at Afya House, Nairobi, the Ministry of Health officials further announced that the administration of second doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine to healthcare workers will commence on Friday.
People who are due have got an SMS on their chanjo system, and a few of them have actually forwarded some to me. The chanjo system is sending the reminder 48 hours to when you are due.
It is possible that the second doses, the people who have not received the AstraZeneca doses, might very well be receiving a new vaccine, specifically Johnson & Johnson. So going forward, it is likely that we are going to be using multiple vaccines rather than just one vaccine.
This even as the health department in Siaya County embarked on a village-to-village outreach program targeting vulnerable members of the community with the COVID-19 vaccine. Through the program, nurses and health workers undertaking vaccination are walking across villages in search of the elderly and other populations.
For the last 2 weeks, we've been having village-to-village outreaches. We are targeting the old people. But if we get to schools and also get the teachers, we do the vaccinations.
Nimejaribu hata kumwambia wazee wengine 3 arika yangu. Wamesema hapana, watachanjwa siku nyingine lakini sio leo. Mimi nikaona hapana, mimi lazima nichanjwe kwa sababu nimekuja karibu.
So far, a total of 963,241 people have been vaccinated against the COVID-19 disease countrywide. In the last 24 hours, Kenya recorded 341 new COVID-19 infections from 3,646 samples tested, pushing the infection rate to 9.4%. Kisumu County is leading with 57 cases, Nairobi 48, Siaya 36, Mombasa and Kericho have 22 cases each, while Kirinyaga has 19 cases. 11 people succumbed to the disease, all of them being late deaths, while 144 others recovered during a similar period. Meanwhile, Kisumu County Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o has announced new guidelines that will ensure full compliance to the Ministry of Health protocols ahead of the Madaraka Day celebrations.
Capacity of Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium is 30,000. We have invited 3,000. That means 10% of the stadium. These people are coming with cards, their seats are designated with proper social distancing. Our Department of Health will be on standby. Anybody without a mask will be given a mask. They will be standby for sanitizers and water and all those things.
As the sequencing by the Ministry of Health continues, it will be likely to establish the status of the country in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, especially on how many people have been affected by the new confirmed variants of the disease. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
Do continue adhering to the safety measures. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged Parliament to fast-track the passage of bills that will help Kenya achieve universal health coverage. The head of state says Kenyans deserve access to the standard of healthcare that their senior leaders enjoy. President Kenyatta was speaking in Parliament during the annual prayer day.
Political differences were pushed aside on Thursday as the country's leadership converged in Parliament for the National Prayer Breakfast. It was also one of the few occasions in which President Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto have been seen in public together this year. President Kenyatta, using the occasion to put the country first, urging lawmakers to pass the National Hospital Insurance Fund Bill 2019.
The only message I have to our two speakers, to the leadership of both the Senate and the National Assembly. There are proposals before you, proposals that will ensure that every Kenyan is able to have access to health insurance, because health insurance is the basis of us being able to offer universal health care. Please expedite the passage of these bits of legislation.
In his address, Deputy President William Ruto acknowledged efforts made by the Ministry of Health in combating the COVID-19 pandemic, saying despite the challenges posed by the pandemic, the country has made significant strides.
Had also, even in the midst of this pandemic, we've had positive things. Courtesy of this administration, the President launched the other day the Lamu Port, amongst many other projects that have been undertaken. We got ourselves a brand new Chief Justice, the first lady ever in Kenya to be Chief Justice.
The two leaders have been reading from different scripts in the ongoing push for constitutional review. President Kenyatta choosing to steer clear of the fallout which ensued following the scathing High Court judgment on the BBI.
Kenya cannot be changed by any one single person, but us working together. That we need to pull together, to work together, and we need to have hope that it is indeed possible to overcome these challenges if we pull together.
In a keynote address by lawyer Peter Waiyaki, leaders were reminded why they need to internalize and maintain integrity to bring hope for a better future.
We have these hope highs and then we go down. Hope highs, then disappointment. One must ask themselves, do we forget perhaps to change the software when we change the hardware? Do we expect too much perhaps of ourselves and our leaders? Or do we underestimate our unwillingness to change our hearts, which keeps us from reaching the heart of the hope that we have?
The National Prayer Breakfast has in the past been used to reconcile political nemesis. It has also been used to entrench unity of purpose among Kenyans.
The Council of Governors is calling on the National Treasury to release the 105.9 billion shillings owed to counties. The Council of Governors said the delay has continued to derail their response measures to the COVID-19 pandemic, payment of pending bills and delivery of other essential services. Their sentiments come a day after Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe urged counties to prepare for the fourth wave of the coronavirus infections.
The Council of Governors says county government equitable share disbursements for the financial year 2020-2021 are in arrears of 242.7 trillion shillings, inclusive of arrears for the financial year 2019-2020.
The outstanding amount owed to the county government is now 105.5 billion as follows.
The COG is raising the red flag that service delivery has been hugely affected and the devolved units may not be able to cope with the looming fourth wave of COVID-19 infections and polio.
Asking county governments to prepare themselves, particularly with the supply of oxygen and piping the hospitals, piping the hospital wards, and being prepared with a supply of oxygen beyond what we currently have.
With the control budget, we know that there is need for the controller to consider the current practice of fast in, fast out, so as to give the counties more discretion. Some of the order bills are not as urgent as issues pandemic.
This is as the county bosses said the amendment of the Division of Revenue Bill 2021 that will allow smooth disbursement of conditional and unconditional grants to counties.
The committee has already gazetted the legal instrument that guides the flow of conditional grants to the county level, which control budget will utilize to approve the acquisition of conditional and unconditional funds by counties.
At the same time, the Council of Governors expressed solidarity with the impeached Wajir Governor Mohamed Abdi Mohamud, saying his removal from office should follow the rule of law.
Governors note the orders by the Honorable High Court in Meru that reaffirmed the position of Wajir County Governor, HE Ambassador Mohamed Mahmoud, who is with me here. His case to be affirmed by the Court of Appeal.
In Meru said that I should stay in office. That office is not vacant.
The Council of Governors says delivery of services to Kenyans has been halted, calling on the National Treasury to release the funds owed to them. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Nairobi County.
Now off to the corridors of justice, where the High Court has declared the appointment of 128 persons to parastatals and state corporations by President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2018 as unconstitutional. In a three-judge bench ruling, the court said the appointments were not made in a transparent and straightforward manner, rendering them null and void.
Katiba Institute and the Africa Center for Open Governance, AFRICOG, the two organizations had sued the state regarding the state appointments, claiming due process was not followed. According to the High Court three-judge bench of Justice Jesse Lesit, Justice Chacha Mwita and Justice L.M. Juguna, the appointments should have been made in a transparent manner, which would have included a declaration of vacancies and interviews to allow Kenyans have an equal chance.
An order is hereby made quashing all the appointments made by Kenya Gazette notice numbers 55, 69 to 56, 21 of June 5, 2018, and numbers 56, 22 to 56, 23 of June 7, 2018. And then D, this being a public interest litigation, the order we make as to cost is that each party shall bear their own cost of the petition.
Some of the appointments in question included appointment of retired Chief of Defense Forces General Julius Karangi, former governors Benjamin Cheboy of Baringo and former Isiolo Governor Godana Doyo, among others, as chairpersons of parastatals. The court also invalidated various post-2010 statutes which allowed for appointments to parastatals without requiring competition or merit. Elsewhere, 2 police officers who shot and killed businesswoman Jane Waigwa at City Park have been jailed for 7 years. Godfrey Kirui and William Chirchir were found guilty of manslaughter by Justice Stella Mutuku. The duo shot dead Janet Waigwa at City Park, Nairobi in 2018 in the company of her nephew, who also sustained serious gunshot wounds. The court noted that the 2 officers used excessive force, which led to the death of the woman. They had, in their mitigation, requested the court to hand them a non-custodial sentence, a request that was declined.
It is my considered view that a sentence of 7 years is appropriate. Consequently, I hereby sentence William Chirchir, the first accused, and Godfrey Kipngetich Kirui, the second accused, to serve a sentence to serve a term of 7 years each. Orders shall issue accordingly. The accused persons are informed of their right of appeal to be exercised within 14 days from today's date.
Katika kujitetea kwao, walikuwa wameiomba mahakama kwa hukumu kifungo cha nje, ombi ambalo lilikataliwa.
To have had a mix-up in the audio there in Swahili. Remember, you can get further details in regard to that particular story, as well as what we are showcasing for you this evening on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. Now, on to matters security, where transport along Kangundu Road was paralyzed on Thursday morning after an angry border operators blocked the road protesting the killing of their colleagues by suspected criminals. Elsewhere, a somber mood has engulfed Matunda area in Soy constituency, Uasin Gishu County, after a man stabbed his wife to death before hanging himself.
Relatives of 34-year-old John Iraya say he stabbed his wife Diana Wekesa, aged 20, severally before taking his life. The incident occurred in Matunda area in Soy constituency, Uasin Gishu County. Soy Sub-County OCPD Nehemiah Bitok confirmed the incident, saying police have already launched investigations into the matter.
Shemeji yangu ako hali mbaya. Alianguka chini jana, akapata nafuu, na baadaye hata saizi ako hospitalini. Tunaomba serikali muhurumie dada yangu. Hatujui itakuwaje, maana ni uchungu. Ni kijana na alikuwa anampenda, kijana tegemeo, ni kijana wa kipekee, peke yake tu. Ndio ni kijana, wengine ni wasichana, na alikuwa ndio mkubwa, ndio tegemeo. Sasa tunaomba tu serikali muone vile mtawasaidia, maana mzee hajiwezi saizi, amelazwa.
Elsewhere, boda operators held protests on Thursday blocking Kangundu Road to express their anger over insecurity. They say in the last 2 months, 5 of their colleagues have died under mysterious circumstances in parts of Kamulu, Ruai and Mavoko.
Ile kitu yenye ningeomba, na hiyo ndio imefanya wakaaji ama waendeshaji wa bodaboda Kamulu wakasirike na wawe na ile hasira zaidi ya kufunga mpaka barabara, ni kwa sababu kuna wezi ambao walikuwa wameshikwa Githurai. Tukaenda kule Githurai kudemand tuwaone, juu tulisikia kuna mmoja ametambulika ambaye ni wa huku, of which bado tulikatazwa kumuona na OCS wa kule.
These, as residents of Subego and Raya villages at the border of Ndaragwa and Laikipia West constituencies, are also up in arms over rising cases of insecurity and high consumption of illicit brews in the area. They claim that this was not the first incident, and every time such cases are reported, nothing is done.
Huyu kijana ambaye tumekuja siku ya leo kutafuta haki yake anaitwa Tyson. Hata hajafikia miaka 25, alimeuawa, wiki nzima imeisha na hakuna jia imepatikana. Wakazi wa hapa Raya wamejaribu kutafuta usaidizi, hawajapata. Siku ya leo venye tumefika, ndio askari wanafika, ndio chifu wanafika, lakini hata mwenye klabu yenyewe inaambiwa hata haina leseni ya kufanya biashara. Wenye walikuwa katika ile klabu kijana akiuliwa hawajapatikana mpaka siku ya leo.
And finally, a teacher from Kasevi Primary School in Kivoi, Mwingi Central, Kitui, says he's living in fear after being attacked on his way from school. Joseph Mutati is the second teacher to be attacked from the same school. Mutati, who lost an eye, says the attackers, who were well known to him, also robbed him of his 2 phones and liquid cash. 3 months ago, another teacher died together with her daughter after their house was set ablaze while they were asleep.
Niko na changamoto la hilo jicho kwa sababu ya kucoordinate vitu, kitu kikuwa mbali siezi, nilichapwa kichwa, bado nakaa kama niko confused. Hata saa zingine kutembea na kugeza vitu inakuwa ni shida sana.
Kitendo cha pili ni hii ya juzi ya mwalimu ambaye sasa alipigwa na watu ambaye anawajua mpaka akatolewa jicho moja. Na mwenye kutenda hicho kitendo ni mtu ambaye anajulikana. Kwa hivyo uchunguzi tuko naye tunaendeleza, na punde tukisha kamilisha hiyo uchunguzi, the culprit will be taken to the court.
On that note, Business Insider takes a short break. We'll be right back.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Next on.
Hey, just what do you think you're trying to do, huh?
Cipriano, where is Mariana? I want you to tell me, please.
Where she is none of your business, so please stop bothering me, okay?
He hung up.
You love my husband so much, so you'll do anything to make you look good to him, won't you?
Amaya is here, but as my wife.
Tunakupa burudani.
Na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are two in one. We are two in one. Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima, aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama
ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Did you know that the policy document is evidence of the existence of an insurance contract between you and your insurance company? It is important to know the terms and conditions of your insurance policy. Make sure you obtain, read, and understand the terms and conditions of the policy document. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Good evening. You're still watching Business Insight. Now, the National Defense College, located in current Kajiado County, is now a fully fledged university after receiving a charter. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who presided over the ceremony and was installed as the Chancellor, noted the elevation in status raises the capacity of the institution to train military personnel in matters of national and regional security. During the event, 55 senior military officials and civil servants graduated. Kamche Medza reports.
24 years after establishment, the National Defence College has now been upgraded to university status.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defence Forces of the Republic of Kenya, hereby grant the charter annexed hereto to the National Defence University, Kenya.
President Uhuru Kenyatta saying the awarding of a charter positions the institution to offer high-level training for security forces.
The National Defence University, Kenya will reinforce our country's defence forces and expand their military and civil diplomacy proficiency. National Defence University, Kenya.
The elaborate ceremony saw the head of state hand over the instruments of authority, namely the charter, the maize, logo, seal and accreditation report to the institution. Based in Karen, the university is the first of its kind in the region and is expected to reinforce Kenya's efforts in addressing emerging security threats regionally and internationally.
I am very optimistic that the National Defence University, Kenya will churn out skilled manpower and experts who will help in formulating national plans and policies related to defence and security matters.
The National Defence University, Kenya will enable us to offer specialized courses for personnel in the security agencies to enable the delivery of their mandate and for the development of strategic leadership capacity in the public sector, as well as for an informed participation at the policy level.
Over the few months since we embarked on the establishment of National Defence University Kenya, a total of 10 goodwill messages were received, 7 from universities in Kenya and 3 from universities elsewhere in the world.
National Defence University of Kenya now joins a list of similar institutions established in Malaysia, Pakistan and United States of America. At the same time, 55 senior military officers and civil servants from 7 countries, namely Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, Nepal and Burundi, graduated from the institution after a 1-year intensive training. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
Deputy President William Ruto's daughter Jun Ruto has wedded her Nigerian fiancé Alexander Ezenagu at a lavish ceremony held at the DP's official residence in Karen, Nairobi. Jun was walked down the aisle by her parents Rachel Ruto and the Deputy President.
Deputy President William Ruto's current residence was on Thursday dotted with color as his firstborn daughter Jun Ruto said "I do" to Nigerian national Alexander Ezenagu. The wedding was attended by a meticulously picked list of guests which included the DP's political allies. The bride, who was walked down the aisle by both her parents, donned a white off-shoulder wedding dress. June and Alexander got engaged in early May following a traditional ceremony held at current residence. Jun Ruto works at the Kenyan Embassy in Warsaw, Poland as the Charge d'Affaires, while Ezenagu works as an assistant law professor at the Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar.
Well, I wish Jun Ruto there and her new husband a life full of bliss and harmony. Now, crossing over to stories that are making headlines in the counties is that a section of residents in Bura, Tokwef village in Garissa Township is appealing to the government to help them in settling a land dispute that has now left them homeless. The residents claim their homes were demolished at dawn on Thursday in an incident where more than 35 houses were torched.
According to residents of Bura village in Garissa town, armed police officers arrived at around 2 a.m., ordered them out of their houses before their houses were demolished. They claim a tycoon has grabbed their ancestral land which they have occupied for 30 years. Garissa Deputy County Commissioner Bernard Olekipuri said that the matter is under investigation.
Usiku yote tumeteseka kukimbia, tumekimbia haba yote.
In Kisii, Kenya Rural Roads Authority has expressed concerns over increased road accidents in grassroots roads. The authority is planning to erect bumps on the roads to curb the rate of the accidents attributed to recklessness by public service vehicle drivers and motorcyclists.
This year are slightly higher because our level of bitumen servicing of roads has gone higher.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Red Cross Society has donated emergency response equipment worth 12 million shillings to 3 coastal counties to help them manage disasters. Kilifi, Tana River and Garissa counties shall receive equipment worth 4 million shillings each.
Sasa hivi tumepata vile vifaa ambavyo vinahitajika katika kuhakikisha kwamba mawasiliano ya mapema na pia kuweza kuandaa yale matayarishi na kuitikia kama majanga yametokea.
And Kakamega County is exploring public-private partnership to boost health service delivery. Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya met with Amref Health Innovations and Philips East Africa, said the target is to improve maternal and health care and facilitate universal health coverage.
Pata permit kutoka West Kenya, lazima ulipe 2,000 mama ndio upewe permit. Tumekubaliana na mwekezaji anaitwa Devki, amesema anaweka shilingi bilioni 5 Mumias Sugar Company iamuke.
Elsewhere, it was celebration Gano as the Amanda Maga Mission in Kenya marked the 100th anniversary of their spiritual leader Sri Prisaka, also known as Sri Anadamutiji. The event held at Nairobi Mountain View main headquarters saw distribution of blankets to the less privileged members of the society in Kangemi and surrounding areas.
Anandamaga has been able to support widows, orphans and vulnerable children, HIV women, and the disabled people.
Now, across borders, French President Emmanuel Macron has asked Rwandans to forgive France for its role in the 1994 Rwandan genocide, in which 800,000 ethnic Tutsis and moderate Hutus died. Speaking at the genocide memorial in Rwanda's capital, Kigali, Macron said France had not heeded warnings of impending carnage and had for too long valued silence over examination of the truth.
Despite the apology, President Emmanuel Macron said France had not been an accomplice in the killings. In March, a French expert commission found that France, under the late President François Mitterrand, had borne heavy and overwhelming responsibility for the genocide but had not been complicit. The report said France had been blind to genocide preparations. Meanwhile, China has denounced U.S. efforts to further investigate whether COVID-19 came from a Chinese lab. U.S. President Joe Biden has called on intelligence officials to redouble their work to find out how the virus was first transmitted to humans. China's foreign ministry accused the U.S. of political manipulation and blame shifting. It has rejected any link between COVID-19 and a virus research lab in the Chinese city of Wuhan. COVID-19 was first detected in Wuhan in late 2019. Since then, more than 168 million cases have been confirmed and about 3.5 million deaths reported. Finally, tens of thousands of people have been evacuated from the city of Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo over fears of another volcanic eruption. Local authorities have said Mount Nyiragongo could erupt once again with little warning. The volcano, 10 kilometers from Goma, spewed lava over the weekend, killing 32 people and leaving thousands homeless, the UN says. Thousands fled then, but some residents had started returning. The area has been rattled by aftershocks, destroying several buildings, and 2 cracks several hundred meters in length appeared in the ground. Goma is a lakeside city where around 670,000 people live, according to UN estimates. Tremors have also been felt more than 90 kilometers away in the Rwandan capital, Kigali.
Now, on that note, we take a short break, but when we return, we're going to be focusing on those stories that are making headlines in the business circles. So do not go away. We'll be right back.
Kupata skiza tune hii, Ufunuo wa Yohana 38 dial *811 *817 hash.
Wakati mwingi katika maisha binadamu hujipata kwa shida, unapata ya kwamba hauna usaidizi unaohitaji, biashara zinaisha, hakuna mapato ya kila siku. Lakini hata kwa hayo yote, Biblia inasema ya kwamba katika kitabu cha Ufunuo wa Yohana mlango wa 3 mstari wa 8, na yajua matendo yako. Tazama, nimekupa mlango uliofunguliwa mbele yako.
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya Yohana 38 dial *811 *817 hash, dial *811 *817 hash.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Focus on martyrs business, where the back and forth between the National Treasury and the county governments over delayed disbursement of equitable share of revenue could come to an end next month. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuri Yatani has committed to release the remaining county allocations by end of June this year to address the financial challenges in the devolved units.
The Constitution requires the Commission to
National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuri Yatani attributes delays in disbursement of county allocations to challenges of revenue streams since the outbreak of COVID-19, cessation of movement and travel restrictions that have affected revenue collections. However, Yatani says in the last 5 months, revenue streams have surpassed target, stabilizing the exchequer, adding that all pending bills owed by the National Treasury will be cleared by end of next month.
We were also able to go through regulations that institutionalizes project implementation management. Over time, we've realized that the way projects are conceptualized and taken through the process of the project cycle, including pre-feasibility study, feasibility study, actual appraisal, budgeting, and as well as issues monitoring and evaluation, has not been up to date. We've seen cases of a number of stalled projects because of poor planning. We've seen cases of projects that at the end of the project exercise, the cost could actually triple on what was actually initially planned.
This is after the Council of Governors decried shortage of resources within the devolved units towards the war on COVID-19, raging floods and drought calamities that have continued to haunt Kenyans in various parts of the country.
We're also able to go through regulations that institutionalizes project implementation management. Over time, we've realized that the way projects are conceptualized and taken through the process of the project cycle, including pre-feasibility study, feasibility study, actual appraisal, budgeting, and as well as issues monitoring and evaluation, has not been up to date. We've seen cases of a number of stalled projects because of poor planning.
Yatani says a committee drawing membership from the Council of Governors, National Government, Control of Budget and Commission on Revenue Allocation will be formed to help unlock about 30 billion shillings in the Equalization Fund that have been lying idle since the promulgation of the Constitution.
As you know, Equalization Fund is 0.5% of audited revenue every year. And so over time it's been accumulation, and the disbursement has been poorly done because of those the core decision.
Reporting for Channel 1 Business News, I'm Michael Mondiga.
Now off to Nakuru, where the government is seeking to construct 605 housing units in that particular county under the Affordable Housing Project. Now speaking during the groundbreaking ceremony, Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga said the mixed housing project, which will be constructed on a combined 65-acre piece of land, will retail at between 1.5 million shillings and 4 million shillings once complete.
Nakuru County is set to have additional 605 housing units in the next 18 months after the national government officially launched an affordable housing project in the area. The project will be on a 55-acre piece of land along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway, while another similar housing project will be on a 10-acre piece of land in Bondeni Estate on the outskirts of the Nakuru town.
Government has made this land available to the developer at no cost to the developer, but on condition that the developer will not charge the value of the land to the homeowners. So essentially, we have transferred the value of this land directly to the homeowners.
The housing project, which is a private-public partnership, will comprise of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, retailing at between 1.5 and 4 million shillings.
We want to encourage ordinary people working in Nakuru. The opportunity to own a home was second to going to heaven for some of us who are Christians. We now want to make it a reality. It can happen in your lifetime.
Part of the reason why the cost of financing is high is because of many useless processes. They are useful processes and others are useless.
Hinga says buyers will not be allowed to sell the houses for at least 8 years to avoid price speculation. The housing project is expected to help reduce the housing deficit that is expected to further narrow as more companies set base in Salga Industrial Zone.
Nakuru, because of there being no organized housing programs, what we did is lands around Joro, Molo and Rongai, people would buy hundreds of acres and subdivide them into an eighth, a quarter, and turn them into houses. So we were developing horizontally, taking over fields of wheat, maize, cabbages, and then later the food prices go up.
The World Bank has selected Nakuru as a pioneer county for the realization of the ambitious 500,000 affordable housing project by the year 2022. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, COVID-19 disruptions saw commercial banks slashing loans to companies and individuals, which worsened when Kenya imposed another round of travel restrictions to and from 5 counties in March this year. Central Bank Governor Patrick Njoroge says mining and building and construction are the most affected, noting that this is due to delayed payments.
Kenya's employment scene worsened in April as private firms cut jobs necessitated by, among others, restrictions imposed in the month of March this year, which saw Nairobi, Nakuru, Machakos, Kajiado and Nakuru treated as one zone, with residents barred from travelling to other areas to control the spread of COVID-19.
April, we all were under the constrained environment of the containment measures, and in particular the 6 counties, right? The 6 counties that were under lockdown. Obviously, it was not as severe as the lockdown that we had previously, the first lockdown. At least there were, the economies were still, a lot of economic activity was still taking place.
The disruptions took a toll on businesses, with lending by commercial banks to companies and individuals slashed.
The ratio that we have been looking at is the gross NPLs relative as a share of gross loans, and that decreased from 14.5 to 14.2 in April, and this was really on the back of significant repayments and indeed also some write-offs. in this sector, in this area. And the 7 out of the 11 economic sectors that registered decreases in NPLs, that is in Kenya shillings terms, the top 4 were transport and communication, real estate, tourism and restaurant, and of course, and agriculture. The 2 sectors that that we flag for, or we see that there has been an increase in NPL. These are building and construction and mining and quarrying, again due to delayed payments.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge says private sector credit grew by 6.8% in the 12 months to April compared to 9.7% in the year to February, well below the central bank's target rate of 12 to 15%, deemed adequate to support economic development. On the other hand, the banking industry recorded marginal improvement on non-performing loans, whose ratio stood at 14.2% in April compared to 14.5% the previous month. This was supported by repayments and recoveries in transport, communication, restaurants, hotels, and the agriculture sector. Kenya's central bank held its main lending rate at 7% on Wednesday, saying inflation was expected to remain within the target range, supported by lower food prices and muted demand pressures, despite the recent increase in fuel prices. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, the government is revising industrialization strategies to incorporate lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic that saw countries barring export of some essential products to address local demand. Industrialization Ministry Director Stephen Odwor says the government is keen on promoting the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative to upscale consumption of locally made goods and reduce over-reliance on imports.
Over-reliance on imported goods has over the years exacerbated the country's trade deficit. It has also slowed down the pace of industrialization and denied the country an opportunity to enhance her competitiveness. Speaking at the launch of the Kenya Manufacturing Summit and Expo 2021, dubbed the Changamka Festival, Stephen Odwor, a director at the Ministry of Industrialization, said Kenyans are yet to fully embrace the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative meant to promote locally manufactured goods.
Buy Kenya, Build Kenya strategy, which has enabled, as you are seeing, to create at least enough demand for locally produced products.
We need to know that we are yet to really penetrate our local markets with the goods that we have.
He says even as the government revises the industrialization strategy, the ministry has put in place the local content policy to enhance value addition of locally available products.
There have been so much change in terms of the various needs, tastes, and with that, we have been able to revise that and in particular, see how we can incorporate innovative startups.
It is all well and good for us to supply locally and to buy locally, but countries that have industrialized historically have been able to export. If you look at what happened in Southeast Asia, if you look at what happened in Europe, we have to make things that meet export standards.
The Changamka Festival, slated for November this year, will showcase the quality and diversity of locally manufactured goods made for local, regional and international markets.
Because for us it's a celebration of all the efforts of the Keep Kenya Moving campaign. We will be highlighting the Kenyan ingenuity, the Kenyan novelty, the Kenyan creativity and the Kenyan pride by showcasing locally manufactured products from different sectors.
It will also provide an opportunity to dismantle the long-held belief that local goods are not of high quality. They called on the government, development partners and the business community to support the festival that also seeks to support goods made by small businesses.
Dutch national carrier KLM plans to start flights between Mombasa and Amsterdam in October this year. The development is likely to boost the struggling tourism industry at the coast, which has been battered by the COVID-19 scourge. KLM says the flights mainly target leisure travelers to the coastal region.
The Dutch national carrier KLM will join a host of international airlines that have direct flights from and to Moi International Airport. The airline will join Ethiopia Airlines, Qatar Airlines, RwandAir, and TUI Belgium that flies weekly to Mombasa from various international destinations. The carrier will operate 2 flights a week on Thursday and Sunday, flying the Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner between Amsterdam and Mombasa starting October 31st, with a loop to Nairobi from Mombasa. KLM General Manager for East Africa, Atadia Fentala, said the flights to Mombasa will mainly target leisure travelers to the coastal city. KLM says the rising number of tourists visiting Mombasa signifies the growing interest in the unique experiences the coastal city has to offer. The coastal region, which relies mainly on income from tourism, has been severely affected by low visitor numbers to the region due to COVID-19 pandemic. As of February this year, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and the Moi International Airport saw a total of 35,052 arrivals compared to 120,000 arrivals during the same period last year. The development comes as Tourism Minister Najib Balala said Kenya will rely on charter flights to boost tourism numbers. KLM is also banking on the increased trade between East Africa and the European Union to attract more passengers.
Now, pastoralists have been urged to embrace the use of Bygas for cooking and lighting in order to reduce over-reliance on wood. Swedish Minister for International Cooperation, Pa Olsson Frinth, says Bygas is cheaper and environmental friendly compared to biomass. Now, Kenya plans to eradicate the use of dirty fuels by the year 2030 and has rolled out various community projects to increase the usage of clean cooking technologies.
The Swedish International Development Agency has distributed biogas units to more than 200 pastoralist households in arid and semi-arid areas in the country.
More opportunities in this land that is so rich if we learn to take care of it the right way. And I think you have shown us during the day and here that if you give people a chance, we are committed to save our planet and create opportunities for ourselves.
Today, the Minister of Environment launched 60 units, and this has a lot of impact on the environment in terms of reducing distance that women walk to go fetch for firewood to be used for cooking and lighting.
The projects have been undertaken in Samburu and Marsabit counties and are being implemented by a consortium of organizations such as NRT, World Vision, and the Stockholm Research Institute.
Nashukuru hata SIDA kwa sababu ya kuungana na NRT kwa sababu ile pesa ambayo inakuja kwa NRT inaweza kushughulikia wamama kwa amani.
Some of the projects include Ujuzi Manyatani, where young people from pastoralist communities are trained on various life skills to enable them offer services and earn a living.
It's targeting about 1,500 youth, boys and girls who had no opportunity to access this vocational training because they haven't gone to school. And so looking at giving them immediate skills like masonry, welding.
However, one of the most successful projects has been the Biogas Clean Cooking Initiative, which promotes clean energy technology. Alan Aoko, Channel 1 Business.
Sasa, hii ng'ombe ni yako. Asante. Hii ng'ombe itatoa maziwa mengi kabisa. Sasa shida ya school fees imeisha. Jen, chukua hii. Hebu nikuulize, hii maneno nasikia ya bima ya elimu inaweza kuwa namna gani mtu anachukua? Process ya kuchukua insurance cover yote ni rahisi. Hata niko na cover ya gari yangu. Kwanza unajaza proposal form kama hii na uijaze wewe mwenyewe, na kama haujui kusoma uijaze na mtu unayemwamini. Hakikisha ile majibu umepatiana ni sahihi na ni ya kweli. Pia thibitisha insurance cover imeangalia maslahi yako, na usiwahi sign proposal form ambayo haijaandikwa kitu chochote. Pia ukumbuke kujitolea fotokopi yako. Oh, sasa wacha nianze hiyo process. By the way, ukisubmit hiyo proposal form, uhakikishe umepatiwa policy document. Uisome na uielewe. Hiyo ndio dhibitisho ya kuwa una bima. Asante sana.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na IRA.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Can you believe we get to come out here every day? Yeah.
Lara? You okay?
What's happening?
Why is she stopping?
Nothing out there.
Not yet.
Only 45 seconds on the clock and no set waves on the horizon. This contest may be over, Bo.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Now, still keeping up with those stories that have been making headlines in the business circles, where MultiChoice Kenya has officially opened a new branch in Rongai, Kajiado County, in a strategic move to ensure both DSTV and GoTV customers easily access service points across the county. MultiChoice Kenya Managing Director Nancy Matimus says the Rongai branch, which is the 10th of such a facility, is in line with the company's mission of enriching lives by making entertainment more accessible. Details of this and our stories from our corporate briefs.
The opening of the new branch will see residents of Rongai and adjacent areas of Nkoroi, Matasia, Kware and Kandisi served with after-sales support, including offering opportunities to direct sales agents, installers and electronic service partners who will indirectly support its operations. The Rongai branch will be an addition to the existing 9 MultiChoice Kenya branches in Nairobi, Mombasa, Nyeri, Kisumu, Eldoret and Nakuru.
What we have seen in Rongai over the years, it has recorded very rapid growth, not just in subscriber numbers, but also the demand of the quality of content that is sitting central to our strategy of continuing to enrich lives in Kenya.
Elsewhere, Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia, who is the current chairman of Shelter Freak Annual General Meeting Bureau, will hand over the mantle to Cameroon's Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestine Ketcha-Cotes, at the company's 40th AGM scheduled for next month in Yaoundé, Cameroon. Cameroon's Minister of Housing will be deputized by Zimbabwe's Minister of National Housing and Social Amenities.
To have registered profit, and especially in the context of where Shelter Freak came from. Yeah. I know when we attended the first Shelter Freak AGM, things were not the same.
And Microfinance Bank Faulu has received a 1.45 billion shillings capital injection from parent company Old Mutual Africa Holdings Limited to support its growing strategy. Faulu is banking on SMEs and business groups to grow revenue and expand operations. The UAP Old Mutual Group CEO for East Africa, Arthur Oginga, said the additional capital will be deployed in strengthening the bank's balance sheet as it offers a full array of financial solutions and expands its footprint across the country. Finally, a team of 4 Kenyan university students beat a stiff competition from 163 countries to win the 2021 Microsoft Annual Global Student Technology Challenge Imagine Cup. The 4, Kushi Gupta, Jit Gohil, Damik Karania, and Abdihamid Ali, are fourth-year students at the United States International University, Africa. The team developed an IoT-based infant monitoring solution, Reweba, Remote Well Baby, which remotely analyzes infant parameters during postnatal screening and serves as an early warning intervention system. They won 8 million shillings, a mentoring session with Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, and a 5.35 million shillings Microsoft Azure grant.
Now from the corporate scene and to matters of budget, where the cost of some medical services could reduce from July this year if medical facilities are passed on benefits from the proposed VAT exemptions on ventilators, decongestants, supplements and plastic syringes as contained in the draft Finance Bill 2021. According to John Courier, a partner at Cody Africa LLP, the move is aimed at lowering the cost of healthcare. However, the cost of basic commodities such as bread and milk formula is likely to go up if proposals to introduce VAT on those products sail through. So earlier on, I had a conversation with Courier about how the tax proposals in the draft Finance Bill 2021 are likely to impact on businesses and individuals, and this is how the conversation went. Some of the proposals that have been captured in the Finance Bill 2021 are likely to aim at 2 outcomes: widening the tax base and generating additional tax revenue. To help us unpack this particular issue when it comes to matters finances and the budget is none other than John Courier, a tax and accounting expert and a partner at Cody Africa Limited Liability Partnership. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Regina.
Let's start us off. We have a proposed budget of 3.63 trillion shillings for the finance year 2021-2022. The taxman carry is to collect revenue of 1.8 trillion shillings, leaving a deficit of around 2 trillion thereabout. If you're given an opportunity to become the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary or Courier attorney in this time, what would you do to actually plug this particular deficit?
All right. Maybe just to give you a bit of background, I think recently it was reported that KRA had actually missed their targets. And I think it's because of this. We've just come out of a rough patch because of COVID. So if I was given an opportunity, I guess what I would probably do is to, first of all, go back to the measures that had been installed pre-COVID, where the government had given tax incentives, lowered tax bans, and probably even ensured that those lasted for a bit longer, so as to allow a recovery period. So we saw these measures coming in during the COVID period. However, the way I feel is that they should have been extended a little bit longer after COVID, so as to give businesses a chance to recover and to also be able to, catch up with the losses that they had made. Now, 2 trillion is a big, staggering amount. Now, again, when you look at the economy generally, you see there are a lot of loopholes that are created by issues around corruption, over expenditure, which is also interesting that some ministries also return back money that they have not spent. So probably prioritizing is what I would focus on. Prioritize, try and close those loopholes. I know corruption is not a Ministry of Finance, docket. It's a nationwide docket. It's something that should be, dealt with from a national point of view. But I think those are the key areas that I would focus on. And then probably also look for taxes that would be all-inclusive without hurting the common mwananchi, so that then the tax net can be widened and made more inclusive, so that more can contribute towards this ever shrinking pot of tax. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that overview. Now, the 2021-2022 budget cycle is likely to include a number of tax amendments. Now, under this, with that in mind, then, where should we expect changes?
Yeah, so the changes mainly around VAT. We've also seen in VAT, interesting that bread might become more expensive just when it's becoming more affordable and more available to the common household. It's probably the main breakfast in most households. So there will be a change around that. By exempting VAT on bread, it might make it more expensive, because then that means that bread manufacturers cannot be able to deduct the input tax. They cannot claim the input tax that goes into the manufacture of bread. Changes around income tax as well. Something also interesting around NSSF. Now you can be able to claim some relief, so which is a good thing, and might also help incentivize people to contribute more towards NSSF. Yeah, so those are some of the key highlights or key areas that we've seen. Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned something about the issue of VAT. Now, the bill pushes for an increase of 16% VAT on essential goods. We're talking about issues of bread, infant milk, motorcycles, imported jewelry, and nicotine pouches. What then will this mean to the consumer?
Yeah, so just like I've alluded, like for bread, milk, it will mean that the moment you remove or you actually make them exempt, some of these products, it increases the cost, because what then happens is that the manufacturer of these products cannot claim the input on those products, and therefore making them more expensive to the common mwananchi. Now, milk especially, and milk products, when they become more expensive, it then means that we have, the access to milk and milk products then becomes more expensive. Bread, the same. Imported jewelry, again, also will become quite expensive. And some of these industries, you'll find that a lot of the products that are used, like milk and milk products, you find some we depend to some extent on importation, so which makes it even more expensive in the longer run. Yeah.
Now, are you saying we're going back to hard times? Should Wanjiko then now brace for tougher times ahead?
Yes, I think so. Because, like I explained, would have expected that the measures that had been introduced earlier that allowed a reduction of corporation tax from 30% to 25%, the widening of the tax bands and reduction of income tax for individuals to 25%. I would have expected that such measures would have lasted a bit longer. So yes, I do expect that it's going to become more expensive for Wanjiko in the coming year also. Yeah.
From where you sit, were there other options? Because over the last few years, we've been seeing that syntax, there were some commodities that were paying the price of actually funding or rather financing the budget, with the taxation.
I think the idea would have been to try and accommodate more people into the tax band. There was an attempt to bring the common businesses into the tax threshold by introducing a tax that was payable on renewal of licenses. But I think the problem was the way it was positioned. It looked like it was going to be punitive, and it was also quite significant. The same thing to minimum tax and other tax measures. So minimum tax, in my view, is a good measure, but it is a bit high. 1%, and then not taking into consideration that sometimes when a business is at its initial stages, it actually is bleeding of cash and needs time to scale up. So yeah, there were other options, and I think the aspect of more inclusivity, trying to come up with taxes that would be more, broader and softer for the common mwananchi. Like if minimum tax was 0.25%, I think that would be a good measure.
Now, the bill also proposes now an increase in the cost of loans, and we're talking about the changes. Where to expect the changes? The Banking Act is going to be expecting that particular change with the increase in the cost of loans of up to 20%.
Yeah. So again, just to go back, we're also coming out of an interesting period where a lot of businesses had been, stifled by COVID. There was no consumption, or consumption was limited just to basic needs. The industry had almost come to, manufacturing had come to a standstill. A lot of layoffs. So it's just going to increase the cost of doing business. It's going to exacerbate the recovery period such that you find that, some of these fees are unavoidable. So it's just going to increase the cost of doing business. It's going to mean loans will become more expensive or dearer, and therefore, at the end of the day, the final consumer is going to end up having to suffer for some of those measures that are being introduced. But again, it's a way of the Revenue Authority trying to increase the tax base. But again, I think this is a measure that could have been postponed for a later period of time, especially during these times when we're trying to recover from COVID, the impact of COVID. Yeah.
So how do you think the banking sector is going to react to this? Are they going to be opening up to borrow more? Are they going to start, is it going to give impetus to the banking sector to...
I think it's going to, but I think it's going to affect, because it's going to affect the uptake of loans, because loans then now become more expensive, and therefore I think what's going to happen is that the business men and women who want to go and take loan, businesses are going to find it more costly. Yeah.
So then now, what does this mean? When we know when demand is diminished. We get other options. Is this now an opportunity for micro lenders to come into play?
Yes.
Or SACCOs, so to speak.
Yes. And I think that is probably where, when formal lending becomes expensive, then you find the other smaller players then, get their niche. They're able to cut their niche. So from a macro point of view, you'd expect that the smaller lenders then will come in to bridge the gap. And it's only recently that we've also seen that they're also facing challenges. So there needs to be a balance, and especially now that we are trying to recover from this period where businesses have really suffered huge losses because of the pandemic. Yeah.
Over the few years, we've been seeing government trying to regulate betting and gaming. Now, we are having a reintroduction of a betting tax that had been thrown out in the last financial year, that is 2020-2021. What impact of the reintroduction? What impact will it have on betting and gaming? Yeah.
So just to go back a bit on the betting, just like every other, like you said, sin tax. I think this was when betting became vibrant 2-3 years ago. You found there was a lot of focus on the betting industry. And what happened is that a lot of players in this industry had been accused of coming up with structures that were denying Kenya needed revenue. And so the government has been continuously trying to look for ways of increasing collections from this particular sector. But this, unfortunately, is a tax that will ultimately affect the person who is wagering, the person who is betting. So, which therefore means that, in effect, it's going to make it more pricier for me to bet if I bet, and therefore the uptake of betting may go down in an industry also that we have seen has started, contracting as opposed to a few years back when it was a major player or there was a lot of betting activity going on. Yeah. So, we do expect that the government is going to raise additional revenue. But that industry is not what it was 2-3 years ago. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that people have changed tact when it comes to gaming and betting. So we might not quite rake in as much as we'd want to. Oh, okay. We're setting ourselves up for a disappointment. That's what I'm hearing. Now, further the bill, we're looking at the tax regimes, or rather the tax changes that we're expecting in the finance bill. There's a proposal to actually introduce 10% duty on operations relating oil, gas, and mining. Kenya has been really expectant to get even, some monies, or rather returns and investment from the early oil pilot scheme. Not yet. But here we are introducing 10% duty on operations relating to oil, gas, and mining.
So again, just to go back to the question and also the background that you've given. So it's an industry that we expected was going to do, especially with the discovery of oil. The government has also been coming up with initiatives to try and prospect for more oil, especially Indian Ocean. So overall, I would expect that it's going to, reduce the attractiveness of that sector to any prospective investors. So it's going to make that industry more expensive for investors that would be looking to invest in mining and extraction.
Now, if you're talking about investors, then with this kind of proposal to increase 10% duty, what do you think? How will it impact on local investors who have been eyeing this niche and nascent subsector that is oil, gas, and mining? Because we have been seeing it's expatriate companies that have been prospecting for oil and such, and there's been a lot of conversation. Why don't we have our own local investors getting into this?
It makes it more expensive, and then even ultimately when you think about the end product, it also makes that end product more expensive. So it's a very capital intensive sector. And therefore, the moment, and we don't have most of those equipment locally. So the moment you introduce higher duties, it just means that you're making the cost of production, the cost of investment in those activities more pricier.
Now, you mentioned when we began the widening the tax base to make it more inclusive, to ease the burden on the few who have been paying these taxes for years. Maybe make us understand when you say to widen the tax base. What does that really mean?
So if I take the example of minimum tax, for example, I think it's a good initiative, but which has been approached probably in a way that is not very popular with businesses. And the reason for that, just like I explained, you target industries, you target companies that in their initial stages don't have as much, they're trying to invest, they're trying to set up. So initially, when you set up a business, you'd expect that business would probably not turn into profitability until maybe after 2 or 3 years. Now, the moment you introduce a minimum tax and tell everyone that you must pay that minimum tax, then that means that I might be paying that minimum tax out of my initial capital. Now, when you make that tax significant, then immediately it then makes the businessmen and other players in the industry feel like you're actually stifling the industry. So widening means come up with measures that would be deemed to be friendly to investors. So perhaps reducing this rate would have been a good thing. It's a good way of ensuring inclusivity, but again, I think it is the rate that is a bit high. It is the way it's being done, the way it's being implemented, that is it's wrong. I also mentioned that I would have expected that the tax measures such as the ones that had been introduced during the COVID time could also have been extended to this year and next year, so as to give people a good cushion to be able to contribute to the national cake. So inclusivity also means reduce taxes, respond to what is happening economically. Granted, the government needs money for operations, but at the same time, we also need to be cognizant of the fact that, we tend to be revolving around the same people who are being taxed. So giving them a little cushion can go a long way in ensuring that the tax pot then increases over time.
Now, from where you sit, Kuria, are we still going to be focused on the big four in this budget, or are these mega projects going to take a backseat?
Interesting question, especially considering that we are headed into an election year. So there are many aspects. I would hope that the government focuses on the big four agenda, because certainly there are some agendas there that are very critical. Universal healthcare is something that I would imagine we are all passionate about. Infrastructure as well, when you think about it, the pillar of education and so on. So I think that it would be important for the government to still prioritize, even though I think that as we draw closer to the end of the year, early next year, the focus will start shifting into other things, politics and so on.
With the history as we have, KRA has missed its targets, and more so, analysts have said, like including yourself, is likely not going to make it. So what other options are there for Treasury to actually raise this, or rather finance this proposed budget?
Widening the tax base, looking for measures that are popular. I know the government sometimes doesn't, especially when it comes to tax. They say tax is you'd rather not contribute it. Everybody feels the pinch, but looking for a way of being inclusive, looking for a tax that people will be happy to pay, because it's not too punitive, would be a good thing. Mm-hmm. So one of the measures that perhaps could be looked at is to try and refine some of these proposals so that they then become more practical and implementable and felt by the business community as being friendly. Yeah.
Now, in parting, if you were given an opportunity, if you were the one seated on Ukuri Yatani's, the CS, National Treasury's position, with just weeks to go or even a year, how would you go about it to make the budget 2021, 2022, palatable for Wanjiku?
I think the key thing would be to try and come up with measures that would cushion the Mwananchi, so that they then feel that the government is more inclusive. But at the same time, in widening the tax base, try and come up with measures, minimum tax, for example, which would be not too punitive to the business community. And of course, there are some low-lying fruits, like deal with the over-ballooning expenditure, government expenditure, try and deal with corruption decisively. All those measures, when put together, would work towards ensuring that the budget is then met. Yeah.
Very well said. We have been speaking to a tax and accounting expert, a partner at Kodi Africa Limited Liability Partnership, Mr. Jun Ruto. Take home. Analysts such as himself and an expert says the tax burden ought to be distributed equitably amongst taxpayers. I'm Regina Manyara. You're watching Business Insight. Indeed, just in case you're wondering why you're seeing two different versions of Regina, that was an interview that I had with Jun Ruto there, partner at Kodi Africa LLP, to just try and unpack matters of the tax proposals there in the Finance Bill 2021. That was earlier. This is now. Let's get to the farm, where passion fruit farmers have been encouraged to start growing the yellow passion fruit variety to easily access international markets. According to the Kenya Agricultural, Livestock and Research Organization, the yellow variety is fast maturing and high yielding, drought resistance and diseases pest resistant, cutting production cost by half.
According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, Kenya produces approximately 55,300 metric tons of passion fruits annually, valued at 1.9 billion shillings. However, players in the industry say passion fruit production per hectare in Kenya remains low due to poor crop husbandry. Experts say demand for the fruit has surged on the international markets during the COVID-19 pandemic period. Kenya Agricultural, Livestock and Research Organization says the purple passion fruit, traditional grown in the country, has seen yield drop over the years, limiting access to major international markets due to phytosanitary requirements, especially in Europe and Chinese markets.
If you have the varieties and the pests and diseases are not addressed, production would go very low and the yields will be very minimal. So the economic importance of passion fruit farming will not be felt.
The European Union funded project will see farmers in high passion fruit potential areas access quality seedlings to increase their yields.
And when you give a farmer a clean seed through this partnership that we are having with the markup, they'll be able to plant in a big acreage. They are going to get maximum profit from that and even empower the country in terms of economic gains, because these passion fruits again will be exported to Europe. They'll go to the industry in the production of juice. The fresh market will be getting fresh fruits. The nutrition capacity of Kenyans will be enhanced.
The project is part of a 474 million shillings market access upgrade program aimed at improving fruits, beans, nuts, herb and spices value chains to increase farmers' earnings. Benson Global reporting for Channel 1 Business.
To the sporting arena, Nicholas Kebene emerged victorious in the 800 meters semi-finals of the Athletic Kenyans pre-qualifiers that kicked off today at the Ruaraka Sports Club as well as the Nyayo Stadium.
Caroline Wairimu, who was making her debut in the Senior Africa Weightlifting Championship, claims a bronze medal in the 55 kilometers category. Wairimu, who had attained started no lift in the opening attempts for 52 kilograms. However, she made a brilliant comeback in the 55 kilograms and 60 kilogram categories to settle for that position.
I'm happy. At least this is my first time nimepata medal. And thanks to my coaches, federation, na mabeshi wenye wamenisupport.
Meanwhile, Nigerian Adenike Olarinoye won a gold medal after lifting 113 kilograms. Her counterpart Stella Kingsley claims a silver, while Chiti Zora of Tunisia won a bronze medal.
I'm really grateful today for being the gold medalist in this tournament. I'm really happy. I thank God for my performance. Thank God for everything. Though it wasn't easy, but I have to put more effort and fight to make sure I get what I want.
Elsewhere, Nicholas Kebene emerged victorious in the 800 meters semi-finals as the Athletics Kenya Olympic pre-trials kicked off today at Nyayo National Stadium. Kebene timed 1 minute 50.30 seconds, while Jonathan Kitilit finished second in 1 minute 50.42 seconds. Nixon Chepkiyeng settled for the third spot in 1 minute 50.46 seconds.
This year it has been a tough year with the pandemic COVID. We have been trying to be on top shape and everything is being a mess, but we are privileged. We've got Africa and then Olympics later, and I'm prepared for it.
Sahi nimekimbia hizi. I think the fastest time kwa sasa wenye wamekimbia. Yeah.
In the 200 meters ladies category, Caroline Mwende cruised to victory in 24.98 seconds, followed by Monica Safania and Susan Nyambura in the second and third positions respectively. They clocked 25.00 seconds and 25.95 seconds respectively. Finally, a total of 8 representatives from the East Africa region will be part of this year's 32nd edition of the Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan from 23rd July to 8th August. According to Ron Extendo, who is the CEO for Africa Mashariki Face, the 8 representatives will be drawn from the region and be used in the Games to advertise the region as a tourist destination. It will be the second time for the region to be represented at the Olympic Games after their maiden appearance at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games.
Ratiba vile ipo, tunategemea kwamba muda huo tutakuwa tuko Tokyo kwa Olympics. Kwa hiyo timu zitakuja, zitashiriki, lakini sisi kama Africa Mashariki Fest kama an organization, timu yetu itakuwa tayari yuko kule.
The team will remain behind to offer more support for the Paralympic Games, which will be held back to back after the Summer Olympics. The Kenyan team to this year's Olympic Games will be seeking to clinch more gold medals after finishing the 15th position in the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. The team clinched 6 gold medals, 6 silver and 1 bronze medal. Reporting for Channel 1 Sports from Nyayo National Stadium in Nairobi, my name is Frederick Mwoki.
Now, Kenya Premier League giants Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards secured 1-0 victories in their respective matches played today. AFC Leopards defeated Mathare United 1-0 to move up second position on the table, but on equal 36 points with leaders Tusker FC, with both teams having played 17 matches each. Leopards' lone goal was netted by Elvis Rupia in the first half of the match, and so each team reduced to 10 men in the dying stages of the game. Rivals Gor Mahia also defeated Vihiga United 1-0 thanks to Clifton Miheso, first half goal at the Mumias Stadium. The winner pushed Kogalo up to 6th position in the table with 25 points collected from 15 matches. Now over to international soccer, where manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer accepts this season has not been a success for Manchester United, but believes his squad has the right characters to do better next time. United lost to Villarreal in the Europa League final last night after David De Gea's spot kick was saved in an epic shootout. The Red Devils finished second in the Premier League but have not won a trophy since 2017, while the win handed Villarreal a first major trophy in their 98-year history.
David De Gea failed at the end of a marathon penalty shootout as Villarreal dashed Manchester United's hopes of Europa League glory in Poland.
And that's a real chance, and they've taken the lead through Gerard Moreno. Beautifully delivered free kick by Parejo, and surprise, surprise, it's Moreno. He never seems to miss. He's never had a season like this before.
This was a disappointing contest, lacking in quality and producing only 3 shots on target across 120 minutes. But drama arrived in the spot kicks. All 20 outfield players converted their penalties in the longest shootout in a final of any UEFA competition, and in an increasingly tense stadium. It gave Villarreal a first major trophy in their 98-year history, and so former Sevilla boss Uni.
To feel this competition as something important, and to show and to speak with the players to do something important in this competition. The respect for the Europa League, respect for every teams, and respect for us, and then to work a lot.
When it goes to penalties, anything can happen. I've got to say the penalty shootout was high quality, but we didn't do enough in the 120 minutes to score more goals, and of course that's the disappointing bit. That we built pressure. We had moments that we felt that if we can just kick on a little bit here now, you can get the goal, but we just couldn't.
Well, as a Manchester United fan, that really did hurt, bringing up what happened yesterday night. But yes, the best team won there, and it was quite a pity that we lost out on the penalty shootout there. Well, better for them, 98-year history, and for the first time in 2021, they get to lift a cup. We'll do better next time, unlike some other teams that we know, the Arsenal and the likes. Anyway. That is a wrap for Business Insight tonight. I have been your host, Regina Manyara, and the sign language interpreter there is none other than Lady Lucy Maura. To every person who made this possible, thank you very much. And also you who watched and kept time to keep us company here. Jackson Kihara from Nairobi, Nancy Karetha, Tom Wemmer, thank you very much for keeping us company. Further details available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke.
Vera Beauty College.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret,